Hello and welcome back inside the Parc Fermé for podcast number 796. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Camera. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do tonight. For your kind consideration, we're going to cover what little Formula One news there is out there, and maybe we'll talk about a couple other things. I don't know, but it always, I got to bring in my co-host, of course. And you know what that means. I got to go all the way to right coast of America, nestled in our nation's capital. You know her, you love her. It's the lovely, the redoubtable
Grace!
Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Grace. I'm doing well. So Grace and I were talking just before the podcast, and her husband were having a fun exercise talking about what car, like if I met a person, what car would have made me just kind of like keep going, like a love interest, right? Like had you met your husband and he was driving this, you may have just kind of went on, and vice versa,
nice.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Right.
We're over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. And what was at the top of your list?
Oh, an HHR. For
HHR.
Sure.
So we're going to
Those
go out and
things are terrible.
offend a bunch of listeners that own HHRs. And I told Grace,
How are you?
mine would probably be a Pontiac Aztec. I probably would just kept going.
I think
know?
that's fair.
Yeah. Just
I think the thing is I don't mean it to sound elitist, right? But it's like there's lots. It's not like, oh, he drives a Mercedes, he's definitely going to get a second date. No, at that price point, there are a lot of cars that you could have chose besides the HHR.
and PT
right?
Cruiser.
And that's my other one is a PT
Yeah,
Cruiser. Those are
right.
like PT Cruisers are like HHRs with more blind spots. So it's like you go slow, you have no pickup, and you could kill somebody on a bike and or walking.
Right. Right.
Awesome.
It's
awesome.
it's a personal taste thing, It's
No.
yeah, it's just what I and then we were laughing because I was out of town on business, and I went to rent a car, and the only ones they had were like Nissans. And they had a Nissan Murano that they ended up giving me, and I got this
You got a
Murano. Oh my gosh, I'd never driven one before.
terrible.
I got one of those, and man, that thing was tubby and it was top heavy, and the whole thing was just kind of going down the road, kind of rocking back and forth, left and right. It was just really not well handling.
No, so Muranos are also on that list, but you'd get at least a second date because I have so many questions. And if you have the aloof, wild, convertible Murano,
That's stunning
have-
to me.
I saw one. We were in Portland, and I was like, "Do you think we could just hang out here
Yeah.
and just wait?"
Wait,
I have so many
many questions. Yeah, I
How do
know.
you? Because convertibles never make a car better. I mean, they're more enjoyable, right? But from a
Yeah.
driver perspective, nobody gets a convertible because it's going to up the ante of their driving experience. So,
Right.
what is having a terrible car and making it convertible, a 4-seater convertible? How is that?
I know.
Oh, man.
And it's so weird. It's like this big bar of Irish Spring soap with this little rectangle cut out in the middle of it with 4 people all jammed in the center,
Yeah.
and still all the way around is all this space all the way around the little cutout. It's almost like a Dr. Seuss mobile, the convertible version. It's
Yes.
so strange.
I just think it is the weirdest car. And so if you listen to
Yes.
this and you own a Murano convertible, we got to get you on the show. Send us a tweet, something. I have so many questions. So many
Yeah.
questions.
It's quite a car.
Because maybe I'm missing something.
Well,
It's
I'm
possible.
sure we are. I'm sure Aztec owners love them. I just look at
I
them
think
and say,
actually in Aztec though, they have a lot of features. Like if you go camping, out the
Well,
at
there
the
you go.
back has a lot of features.
See?
There's a lot of plugs and a lot of, and I mean
Yeah.
now that stuff is a much more
ubiquitous.
common,
Yeah.
right? But when it came out, so I think there is a appeal to an Aztec if you are an outdoor camping kind of person.
See,
It
the
had a lot more
Aztec,
features than I thought.
one of the first to appeal to the active lifestyle, people.
Yeah, move over, Rivian. We've got the
That's right.
Aztec.
That's right.
But it is sad. I mean, there's a reason why it's what Walter drove on Breaking Bad, right? It's a very sad vehicle.
It is a sad vehicle.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Hey, Grace, speaking of sad,
Yeah.
so
Aw.
this weekend, our friend Stoffel Van Dorn won
Yeah.
the Formula E championship, right?
Yeah.
I know. I mean, everybody's
Right.
kind of like, whoa, yes, that's exactly right, Stoffel. And
Right.
so he won the Formula E championship, but I can't help but feel a little sorry for him. So let me recap, if you
Okay.
will. I'm going to give him my stove box, if you will. So, yeah, I know. It was weak. Didn't I have that somewhere. Where's my rim shot? There it is.
There it is.
So anyway, all right. So he goes and wins the Formula E championship. You'd think, gosh, I'd be excited about that. But then the headlines. Here's some of the headlines. Van Dorn claims Formula E title in Mercedes last race. Okay. Next one. Van Dorn succeeds Nick DeVries as Formula E champion.
Can't he just have his own headline?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, could you just say Van Dorn wins?
Congratulations, Van Dorn, you won.
Van
Period.
Dorn succeeds
Exclamation
this
point.
other awesome driver in Formula E. I
Just
don't
give
know.
him his own. Just let him
Right.
have his own moment.
Yeah,
No
right.
Mercedes, no
Yeah.
Nick DeVries.
No Nick DeVries. Yeah, right. And then finally, this one was Van Dorn banishes F1 demons. Could he just win the Formula E championship? Could we?
Would I read
could
that
we
art?
just-
Like if I saw that appear, I don't think I don't know what I would. I don't know that I'd click on that. That sounds
No,
frightening.
It does.
I'm sorry.
It does. It almost
Sorry,
seems
sir.
like Exorcist or something. But
Yeah,
but,
right. Like what,
yeah. I mean, so I'm reading these. So all of these headlines have a negative twist to them, right?
Yeah.
And then there was all these articles that came out. Everybody finally Googled the Formula E championship table or whatever, and it dawned on him that he only had one race win. And so then there was this whole flurry of articles that came out talking about, that he had won the title, but he only won one race out of the whole year.
he still gets
I was
his
like,
title.
Well, okay.
So does Johan Mir. It's fine. You only need one. You just get the title. It doesn't matter how many wins you have.
Right. So I thought, you know what, Stoffel, let's just give him a few accolades he deserves. So first, he's a Belgian dude, so that's cool, I guess, right?
Do you have your own McDonald's? You don't. So
You don't.
He's
You
already
don't.
got that on you.
I bet you Nick DeVries doesn't have his own McDonald's.
I don't know. Maybe he
Right.
does.
Well, he might. But
You might.
I was in Kortrijk, Belgium. I wandered across the traffic circle and I walked into the McDonald's, sat down, and it's Stoffel Van Dorn pictures everywhere in the McDonald's because he's from Kortrijk. So
Right.
there you go. Second, he was dumped by McLaren for Lando.
Right.
Okay, if you're going to get dumped for somebody, getting dumped for Lando.
At least
is
that
a-
works.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
that's understandable. I get the point because he was really at the time struggling to come to grips with the car. But the unfortunate thing is, after dumping Stoffel, McLaren found this all new patience. I mean,
Magic.
total zen over there because they're completely patient with Daniel and have been for a long time as Daniel struggles to get on top of the car. No, Stoffel, you're struggling
Right.
out. Daniel, shh, no worries. Right?
Take your time.
Take your time, pal. 2-3 years, whatever. We'll give you a big contract, whatever. That's a little odd. So then he may have just won one race in Formula E this year, but he was consistent, right? And that's what won
Right.
the championship. Sebastian Vettel, he never led the championship in 2012, but he won the title in the very last race, and nobody's making a big deal about that, right?
I don't know. Just give Stoffel some respect, people.
That's all
Just
I'm
let him
saying.
have his own headline by himself.
He had to go into each race and find motivation to win because he knew Mercedes was ditching Formula E after
Right.
making such a full-throated endorsement of the series a few years ago. And now they're in, and then, like a thief in the night, they're out. So, I don't know why, but anyway, I don't follow the series close enough to know what Mercedes' reason for leaving was. But you're absolutely right. Give Stoffel some props. He won the
Yeah,
Formula
right.
E, right?
Yeah.
He's
He's good with that.
I don't follow the series that closely. I don't watch it. But I think that's great. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And people write
Yeah.
better headlines. There's no demons.
Yeah.
I don't
No
know.
demons involved. Come on, man.
Yeah, he's all right. He's got it.
He's Belgian. He's not Antichrist, for crying out loud. So
No, although that would be quite the surprise for all of us. I mean, Stoffel Van Dorn seems like a very nice guy. I don't think that's who I would expect to be, Satan.
well, no.
I'd be surprised, right? Like I would be, maybe that would be the greatest trick of all, right?
It would be the greatest trick of all.
He is Kaiser Sose, right?
Right. Satan, plucky little lad from Kortrijk, Belgium.
Right. Who knew?
No.
And you know who's first on his list? Fernando Alonso.
Fernando. Right. Lewis Hamilton's arch nemesis, I might add.
That's
There,
right.
Lewis said that Fernando was his arch nemesis, and all the headlines were Lewis snubs Max as his, and I was like, he didn't no snubbing Max. Fernando was a brutal, nemesis to Lewis, no doubt about it.
Doesn't he get to have his own answer? Just because his answer is different than your answer or what would sell your paper,
Yeah.
he's entitled to his own answer.
He is.
And Alonso is a very understandable answer.
For crying out loud, yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He can. I mean, do you remember Spygate, people?
Exactly.
I
You
don't
remember
know.
that first year, what, 2007?
A little rough.
Rough for
him.
Lewis.
So
Yeah,
maybe
but he
not,
handled
but
it.
he did. He rose above it, as you would say.
Yes, he did.
So I think that people, whoa, it's okay. He's allowed to have his own opinions, whatever they
Well,
are.
it's the same
okay.
thing when Max said something similar, where he was saying that this has been a few weeks ago. Somebody will correct me. I don't remember verbatim, and that's what happens when you get old, kids. But it was something along the lines of Max was talking about, how much he was enjoying racing Charles Leclerc, Carlos, Lando, George, Alex, those guys. And it was like, oh, Max is snubbing Lewis, saying that he's not a factor or whatever. And it's kind of like, it isn't really hard to figure this out that we're talking about a generational gap here, right? So Lewis, very much in the Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso sort of,
right?
Generation, if you will. Older guy.
Yeah.
Right. And then Max and his generation, Max, Lando, George, all those guys, they're
Young
just
guy.
a younger generation. And they all grew up racing each other,
Right.
just like Lewis grew up racing against Vettel or Nico Rosberg or,
Right.
those guys. So, it's just normal, I don't make
Yeah, I don't know.
controversy where it doesn't
I don't
belong.
know, but I think that happens in all sports. Like people always are
It
like,
does. Yeah.
why did that guy hug that guy after because they went to college together or they
Yeah.
used to be on a team together or, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
they're human beings and they are able to fight each other on the court and then go have a beer together.
Right.
They know each other. The number
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
NBA players or NFL players, it's a small group of people. So of course they know each other and you
Yeah.
have friends or not friends. And so
Well, it's like here in St. Louis with the Cardinals, Yadier Molina, who is our, awesome catcher. And when they play like the Kansas City Royals and, he's buddies with their pitcher. They're great
Right.
friends, so it's normal to
and
see him
pitchers
give
and
him a
catchers have a
hug.
thing.
And they do.
Yeah.
So that's normal.
So-
But so these drivers, that's kind of the same thing too. So first up in the news, we're all going to be dwelling on Abu Dhabi apparently. So motorsport, not autosport, but motorsport, asked Toto Wolff if he still reflects on Abu Dhabi. I guess it's summer. You needed to ramp it up, so why not dredge up Abu Dhabi? So they asked,
Sure.
are you still reflecting on Abu Dhabi? And Toto said this, quote, I think about it every day, but I have my peace with Max winning the championship because he's a deserving champion. How it panned out, I think I have values around fairness and especially sporting fairness. This is what provides my fundamental love for the sport. And then that was kicked with defeat on that particular day. There you go. So I can certainly understand
Sure.
not being happy with the result, right?
He's never going to be happy. I mean,
Yeah,
and
I
neither
can
is
certainly-
Lewis, right? Like, you don't have to keep asking people them this question.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like we've been down this road, we've all talked about this and everything.
I have way lower things that I still won't give up. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been, almost won a championship.
Yeah, right.
And there are things I'm still like, nope, I'll never like that person, or nope, I'll never go there again.
Yeah, I've had that.
Nope.
I'm done shopping there. Done.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
of course they're never going to really enjoy it.
I'm a lot like that too. It's like something like hits me wrong or whatever. That's the last time I'm ever going to buy that. I'll never buy that product again, and I don't.
That's it.
That's the way to go.
So I think it only makes sense that here's something that really they should feel that way
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
And
yeah.
of course they're never going to be over it.
So it's a little raw. I tell you though, I'm still reflecting on Abu Dhabi periodically, not every day, but periodically, because I understand being upset about that. I get it. All right. But as a team boss, I still think there was a real failure on that part from Toto. It has nothing to do with Lewis. I think he's representing thousands of workers who tirelessly contributed to the team's 8th Constructors' Championship. And to not go to the FIA award ceremony, I just think that's a bad move. It's bad.
So speaking of things that Todd will never stop being mad about, it will be them not going to the prize and giving ceremony.
That's right. I think, well, it's in poor taste. You represent a lot of people who put in hellish work that whole season, and you got to represent them too. It's a tough position.
James Allison wasn't enough.
No, he's not, because they just hired him.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, got to be Toto. Got to be the leader. You got to stand up in the face of adversity. You got to stand up there, represent thousands of people that won that 8th title, which is no easy feat, and they worked their tails off to do it. And you got to represent that. So
we'll revisit this at the end of the season as well when we have the prize giving ceremony again, just like we will revisit that conversation again when we go back to Abu Dhabi.
I might when the prize giving gala.
The prize giving gala.
Yes, the prize giving gala. Of course, when that comes up, I'll be bemoaning this winter the fact that last year Toto didn't show up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Never forget.
No, never forget. Spa 98.
That's right. Forget. That's on the list, right?
It is on the
list.
Spa
98, the prize giving ceremony.
That's it. Yeah. Hey, for me though, really the interesting part of this article wasn't so much that. It was his comments about the new FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem.
Oh.
And I thought it was interesting. So he was talking. It was one of those connecting in real time moments. So he was talking about the new president, and he said, I think Mohammed bin Sulayem, the way he's hiring and recruiting shows for me direction. Every personality has his edges. And I think the primary objective of being transparent, providing good governance, and a good framework is what I see happening. Are there going to be bumps on the road because Mohammed's organization needs to fall in place and everybody needs to find their roles? Yeah, for sure. But I'm happy with how it's going. They're open-minded. They're not opinionated. For me, transparent, honest, and have integrity, end quote.
Okay.
Now, I found that kind of interesting, given the FIA's crackdown on jewelry and everybody bemoaning that, and nose rings and underwear and all the stuff that was going on, and the other issues that Toto has been kind of critical about in early days when he took the helm. That they appealed, they wanted something done with Massey, they wanted all this stuff, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
But you can have both. I think he can be both respectful of the FIA president and critical of decisions he's made or things he's pushed forward. I mean, I think that's true of any manager or boss that any of us have had, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe he could. Yeah.
I don't think it doesn't have to be all I kiss your butt and everything you do, I bend the knee and I love everything you do, or I hate everything you do and you're my enemy and I hate it just because you're Ferrari. It doesn't have to be most of our interactions with other human beings is a mix of the two. There are things that people do that you're like,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. And other things I'm like, maybe that's not what I would have done.
I tend to think there might be a little more butt kissing going on in politicking than maybe I suspected here. I don't know. There's been a lot of criticism because he's sort of come in with sort of this, new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
And I thought there was going to be some kind of clashes with the FIA, F1 teams, et cetera, given the aggressive nature of the new FIA. But Toto's finding it, it's all good, man. Yeah, that's great. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute. That's right. Mercedes is lobbying the FIA hard on their porpoising issue, and they've got the FIA making some regulation changes at the end of the summer break and more regulation changes next year to remedy Mercedes' issue, right? So yeah, he's probably very happy with the new FIA, I would think. If you're Red Bull or Ferrari, maybe you might feel differently, but it is the Piranha Club.
It keeps some level of jovialness with them. Again,
I think it's important too.
Right? It's not very good, even if you disagree with your boss, to not walk in the door and go, "What the and the what?" Like that's probably not a good idea.
And Toto's a smooth operator in that game.
Right? So you kind of want to keep it like, I think things are okay. I don't know what the problem is. It's all right.
even if there is a problem and you're really torqued at Mohammed, you're still going to say,
it's fine.
Things are okay, man.
I don't know. I still like that Lewis in the Vanity Fair article was just like, I just tried to wear as much jewelry as I could. I like that.
Right.
As many chains, as many rings, wherever I could get, and then the fact that people were talking about where was his second piercing was a whole thing. I was like, that's right. I enjoy that. I'm petty like that. That's good. I like that. Just wear whatever they tell you not to wear. Just wear more of that.
Right. Always pulling at the threads.
Always. I mean, that's why I love Alonso, right? It's the like, oh, you're not gonna. If I cut this corner, I'm not gonna be penalized. Well, then I'm gonna cut this corner. I'm cutting
the corner. Yeah. Right.
Right. So I think that always, I love Magic Alonso. He's so petty. I love that.
Yeah.
We need more of that in a sport.
I agree. That's kind of what I like Lando.
Yeah. Got a little snarky pettiness to him.
Yeah, he just kind of calls it the way it is, Yeah, I like that.
I do. Yes, I do like when he goes, I don't know, it'd still be the same car. Like, I get it that you're trying to like make conversation here, but we'll still be here next week in the same car. So my expectations aren't that high.
They're the same.
In P8.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Speaking of McLaren, so the FIA now, and speaking of the FIA, the FIA is not going to miss an opportunity. So if you're trying to be a new sheriff in town and increase the FIA's role in the overall scheme of Formula One, then a ongoing contract row is a great way for you to use a vehicle within the FIA regulations to really inject yourself in the middle of this situation. Why not? Right? So back in 1991, Grace, this is long before you were watching Formula One. It's the old days.
It's not that old. I was alive. It's not that old.
No, you were alive. But back in 1991, when Michael Schumacher had an agreement in principle to drive for Eddie Jordan, but then after he had debuted in a Jordan driving at Spa, and he had an agreement in principle to continue driving for Jordan, but the very next race showed up at Benetton. So he chose to go with Benetton. When that happened, the FIA created the FIA Driver Contract Recognition Board, the CRB, if you will, to resolve matters such as this without going to high court to resolve it. Now, as you can imagine, it seems we have that kind of situation again with Oscar Piastri defying Alpine's claim that he will drive for them in 2023. And you got Daniel Ricciardo, who is apparently being supplanted by Oscar at McLaren. Well, he has a contract that he's very keen to complete for the season of 2023 at McLaren. So we've got an issue, if you will.
Just a bit.
Right. Got a little bit of an issue. So here is what the FIA have said of the situation. Quote, the FIA's Driver Contract Recognition Board was set up to deal with the contract priority issues between drivers and F1 teams. That's why we rely on their decision to resolve any conflict.
Okay.
There you go. Now, it might be interesting, to me anyway, if the FIA render a verdict that Alpine isn't happy with for the simple reason that maybe contractually they feel like Oscar's right. But Alpine, what happens if they're not happy with it? I mean, the simple reason is they've spent hundreds of thousands, if not, according to Otmar, millions of dollars on his development within the Renault/Alpine program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've backed his career, and all of that investment is just gone, right?
Right.
So one presumes that if they're not happy with the CRB's, I guess their judgment on this thing, for lack of a better word, I would think, wouldn't you, they'd seek some sort of remediation in high court?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. You're not just going to let that much talent and money walk out the door, right? So you're not just going to let that happen. But I think that equally, it's not as if, first of all, I'd like to point out that Piastri on my autocorrect always comes out as pastry. So that has been Oscar Pastry.
Oscar Pastry, yep.
And so that's always great. So yeah, Oscar Pastry is they're just not going to let that talent and that investment walk out the door, but he may well do it. He may, because I don't think, it's not as if he just was like, woke up this morning and was like, I know what I'm going to do. Yeah. He certainly talked to his manager, and he certainly talked to lawyers, and he certainly, you know what I mean? Like, it's not as if he doesn't have a leg to stand on, or he wouldn't have pulled out on this either. He thinks he also is right and has all the rights in the world to move to McLaren or any other team than staying with Alpine. But of course, Alpine's going to, like you said, millions and millions of euros is a lot of money. I would think. And Schnafnauer isn't just going to say, oh, fine, have a nice day. Shucks. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. We'll find another driver.
Gosh, we missed him. I wish we would have signed that, when we should have.
I really like that kid. So, I mean, I think they say that you parent from your trauma. I think you also contract negotiate from your trauma, right? And so as you learn things, as you make mistakes, you pay attention to other things in negotiations, right? You're like, well, we can't let that clause happen again, or we can't, I didn't put that in my statement of work. Crap. Okay. So you're right. You learn from your mistakes. So I think that they will tighten it up for future driver rounds, but it's also Formula One. I mean, when this story broke last week, I say it all the time. And at one point, Flip finally was like, I guess you're right. Contracts in F1 aren't worth anything. They're barely worth the paper they're written on. If you have enough money and the right lawyers, any driver can go anywhere at any point in their career. Yeah, right. It just never seems to be, he has to stay. That never seems to factor into some part of silly season for certain drivers.
Yeah, and there's always that element too, and this kind of goes for stick and ball sports. But, if someone adamantly doesn't want to be at a team, it's kind of tough to actually force someone to get in that car and drive for you. I
don't know.
I was mentioning on the last podcast when I talking about Guido van der Garde,
right,
with everything that they did to not take him and everything he did legally because he had a right. That relationship was damaged beyond repair.
Right.
So was it ever realistic to think that when he showed up in Australia that he'd end up being in that car? At that point it ceased to be about Guido getting a ride at Sauber for that season, and it became Guido trying to capitalize on a contract and really make as much revenue as he can out of the deal. And that's what he did.
And I also think I was looking at Schnafnauer's quote, right? And there he says, there should be some loyalty to the fact that we've invested literally millions and millions of euros to prepare him. I don't know that that's enough, sir. I think that, I've definitely left jobs that aren't necessarily a promotion, but because I think they're going to be a better fit for me, or I'm interested in what that job's going to be, or I think that's a better step forward in my career. A loyalty isn't I don't know. You really can't. You can't cash in on loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that if you were given the opportunity to be at Alpine, who, as Paul Charsley stated, never are full send, or to go to McLaren, I'd go to McLaren. I just don't see where loyalty just isn't enough. I get it. I get that that's what Schnaffenauer feels, and I'm sure he really does feel that, and that's what he has. But loyalty isn't enough. You can't contract loyalty.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because I'm sure Otmar feels like now that he's there, that in his mind that team's going to progress forward, and I'm sure the ownership of that team feels that way too.
Yes,
but
they felt that way for 10 years now.
Yeah, they've been in the series quite a while and haven't made the progress that I'm sure they would have wanted. I think they haven't quite made the progress that I kind of feel like they might have, right?
Correct.
And so on some level, yeah, when you look at McLaren, all the things that Zach's doing with that team, and you're thinking, well, they're running fourth in the championship. It's kind of hard to argue with, right?
And that's just the stuff we know about. I think of when, Ricciardo left Red Bull to go to Renault. A lot of that was not based on who was more likely to win him a championship.
No.
I mean, of course it is, but also he really wasn't working out for him at Red Bull.
Yeah, right.
That was not a team that suited him, his style, his personality. And again, I think we've all experienced that in our jobs. It's like, well, I really like this job, but boy, these people it's not working out for me. Or management, I got a new boss and I can't work with this person, so something has to change, right? So I think that there could be other factors that we're just not privy to, and that he just saw an opportunity. And especially unlike the rest of us, right? Like my work career is 40 years long or something. His work career is 15 if he's lucky.
Yeah, right.
Right. And he's already spent, 3 of them sitting as a reserve driver. So, he doesn't have time to wait for Alpine to decide or somehow that it's going to be full send and this is going to work. If he has an opportunity to be at a team that he thinks is more successful, he's got to go. He just doesn't have the time to wait.
Yeah, there's a lot of those
Schnaffenauer to get it together.
Yeah, there's a lot of those timing lessons that you mentioned, that F1's littered with. So timing lessons, Lewis Hamilton going from McLaren to Mercedes, perfect timing, right? Alonso, epically always finding the wrong timing.
Yes,
I would
terrible
say
timing,
with his career,
always.
right? Right. George Russell, not all of his making, but here's a driver totally supported by Mercedes, and Toto put him on ice, probably a year for sure, possibly 2 years longer than I think I would have, right? So
yeah.
As
we're seeing this year, for sure.
That's exactly it, man.
You could have been having this, right?
That could turn around next year. Hard to know with Mercedes. Hopefully they'll get on top of their issue, but it also could turn into one of those timing things for George if they don't, right? So that's a bad deal. Sergio Perez, timing issues, all with Force India and Sauber, and eventually timing coming good at Red Bull, right?
Right. And again, it's somebody else who also doesn't have a lot of years left in this sport. And so it is good for Perez that he's finally at a team that everybody seems to work well together. And he's, won races and, seems to be the second driver to Max Verstappen that's actually worked out for both him and the team. So,
right.
I mean,
so then you got Daniel, bad timing, it just hasn't worked out. Although, yeah, I think there's something else going on with the McLaren thing, but and Lando came out this week and said that he found this year's car really difficult to get on top of, but he had to adapt his total style to it. And I thought, ooh, zing, because that's what you expected Daniel to do for the last 2 years and hasn't,
Right.
It's just not working. So anyway, timing is an issue always. And I would say the F1 grid is littered with timing that's been off more so than it's on. And that's just the way it is.
And when you can't wait when that opportunity comes.
No.
I think for any of us with a 40-year career, you can't wait. You don't know when that job, and maybe it's a generational difference. I once had a boss say, "Oh, I didn't even know you were looking for jobs." I was like, "I'm always looking for jobs." in a sense, right? I'm always keeping my ear to the ground. You never know what interesting thing is going to come up. You can't just wait until you're ready to go to start looking, right?
Right.
So I think when you have a career that's only 15 years long, yeah, you definitely have to keep your ear to the ground and be ready to jump whenever you need to jump.
Gotta look. Let's see. What else is in the news? Let's see. Toto Wolff has lobbied the FIA strongly to make
Two
changes.
stories.
I know.
Two Toto Wolff stories.
Two
already.
Toto
Look at that.
stories.
Whoa.
Well, Toto, he doesn't, it's slow. It's a summer break, and notoriously, Toto
I
doesn't
guess.
shut up.
I don't know.
He
Maybe
always talks, so we always
he
get
just-
stuff from him.
he needs a break. I don't know. Maybe he's like, I've had
Yeah.
enough of.
I've
Susie
had
and
enough
Jack.
summer. Yeah.
Right. I need a break.
Time to get back in the press. you
Right.
know? So he's lobbying to make changes to the regulations to prevent the cars from porpoising, and says that they have to do something or it could cause brain damage for the drivers. They can't be like the NFL and drag their feet. He said, quote, "I still believe that the FIA and all of us must do something about it. Frequency of 1 to 1 hertz that lasts for a few minutes can cause brain damage. We have 6 to 7 hertz for several hours," right? He says the FIA, needs to do something about it. So, the FIA are making minor regulation changes during the summer break, and they're focusing mainly on the floors of the cars. But they intend to introduce new regulations for next year to reduce the bouncing. Now, this is one of those two-sided coin things, right?
Okay.
On one side of the coin is if you're Mercedes and you have a car that's bouncing more than others, and it's a radical concept that has been subject to more bouncing than other teams like Ferrari and Red Bull, you'd be very keen to get the FIA to, make the ride height issue and raise the ride height issue, because if you're the only one to raise the ride height, your car is going to suffer a performance penalty in doing so. But if you can get the FIA to raise all the cars, then at least the performance deficit might be, same across the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
Presumption. But anyway, you don't want to be the only person having to raise your car and getting it out of the performance window.
Right.
So anyway, if you raise everyone, maybe all the teams lose performance in equal measure. I don't know. At least that's one thing. On the other side of the coin, if you're Red Bull or Ferrari, if you're Red Bull leading the championship, your car doesn't bounce like Mercedes, and you don't want this, right? Team boss Christian Horner said, quote, "I think that it's down to the team how it chooses to operate its car. You can remove the porpoising very easily, but that's at a sacrifice of performance. So therefore, it's not the duty of the FIA to ensure that a team is competitive. Otherwise, we'd have had an engine balance of performance rule over the last 10 years, meaning with Mercedes dominance over the last 10 years. He said at some level that, basically the team has to cure this. You can't have the FIA come in and improve a team's competitiveness. I don't know. I understand why you would say that, and Ferrari too. Mercedes does need to sort the car out, and that means they could lose pace, but then that's kind of the hard knock life of F1, is it not? Both Ferrari and Red Bull have been also rans for 8 years due to Mercedes dominance, and that's kind of how F1 evolves. Red Bull had 4 years, Ferrari had 4 years, Mercedes had 8, so that's good for them. I don't know if it'll make a difference. I don't know. I think you'll see Ferrari and Red Bull fight next year's regulation changes adamantly. And I don't know if the FIA will buy the brain damage story that Toto is pushing.
Well, all right. So first, they're not the only team that has experienced porpoising, right? Because after Baku, Gasly went to the hospital. He didn't have brain damage, but right, he had spinal issues. So anyway, so I think there are other teams as well that are suffering from this. And there was Scarbs and Sam Collins for F1 did a whole piece on porpoising, and they really broke down and I could break it down here, but I just watch the video. They of course do a much better job because they are, really engineers and big time professionals, but they talk about how not just that porpoising, right? It isn't just a like straight linear line, right? It happens at different points. It happens for different cars at different times. There's different components involved. It's not just like, we'll just raise the car, right? Because if that was the answer, they would have done that. That it's complicated, right? It's Formula One. Things are complicated. So I thought that their insight, of course, was very interesting. And I also think that Red Bull, because in that video, I feel like I should be a YouTuber and be like, I'll post the link below, but I don't know how to do that. But anyway, you should be watching all of Scarbs and Sam's Collins anyway, so you should have already watched it. But they did this after Baku, so that'll help you find the episode that they were talking about. But Red Bull also has a very similar issue with porpoising, but I just think Red Bull, because it is advantageous to them, keep it on the down low. Just like Mercedes is very loud about it because it's advantageous to them to be loud about it, right?
Of course.
So I think, not you, I just think people need to keep kind of like, oh, sorry about my microphone. I'm sure I sounded like Paul Charsley there all of a sudden.
You did.
Sorry. The whole gamut of what's actually happening, what do we see in the data, which is where you kind of get the Sam Collins, Craig Scarborough kind of viewpoint, like what's actually happening. And then what are the team principals trying to lobby with the FIA, right? And that more complex picture, as opposed to just this team's porpoising and this team doesn't, because they've all experienced it different places. And I don't know, Mercedes seems to be doing pretty good right now. Granted, if Ferrari hadn't made some decisions along the way, maybe they wouldn't have gotten those podiums. But I still don't think, even if Ferrari hadn't put the hards on or hadn't made some of the other mistakes, or Charles Leclerc hadn't made some of the mistakes they had, Mercedes is definitely improving. So
yeah, they are. And
I just want to say, like, I know that some part of it, maybe it's because Toto Wolff is, I don't know, that's true that he's out there more than other people, but come on, it's not like Christian Horner never ever says these kind of things. He's just not saying them right now.
Right.
But he is just as bad about the like, oh, I don't know, Mercedes, they shouldn't have that thing, or I don't, it's just, he's not the person doing it right now because he's the person winning. So of course he's not the person that's going to be out there saying things, but Christian Horner's just as bad as Toto Wolff when it comes to these kind of like, oh, I don't, complaining kind of things, or, well, we have these problems that the FIA needs to fix. They certainly lobby the FIA all the time too. So I just think there's some balance here.
That's part of the game, because Mattia feels the same way.
Yes.
I mean, he's not for this either.
No.
And he's kind of like, we're not struggling as much. I think it's one thing to say all the teams have had some porpoising and bouncing. Yeah, I think in varying levels, though. I think that's an important thing. Some are much worse than others, and I think Mercedes is the chief among them.
Yeah, and I think that they've come around that issue.
They have.
I don't think it's just, because of course when they first kind of get it, you're like, I don't know. This is always me. I'm like, well, it's just, it's my McLaren fan coming out, right? Like, it's just one race. Like, I got to hold my breath for at least 3 more races before maybe I believe that this is a real thing. But I think that they've definitely turned a corner. I think they will definitely be competitive. I think they've definitely wrapped their heads around it. And I think it is more complicated than, just raise the height. So anyway, that's why I point you, not you, everybody listening to this, not just you, to that Scarbs and Sam Collins. I think they did a very good job of explaining what's going on and what you can see in the data and what's going on with the cars.
Good. All right. In other big news, it's been all the talk really in the off season, just before the off season, or the summer season, summer break, I might say, happened. We're talking about having to make room for more races next year. We're talking about 23, 24 races, right? And F1 sort of dog whistled that maybe some existing races may not make it. Sorry. Right? Well, this started speculation, and Monaco is one of them, Spa, and, Monza, and all this stuff in these races that don't pay a lot for the privilege of hosting an F1 race. And so this has got a lot of tongues wagging about who you must keep and not keep. And I thought, you know what? We're just going to make this easy. I'm going to go through the 22 races this season. And when I read them off, Grace, you and I are going to share with the world who we'd be okay dumping, thumb down, and who we would absolutely keep, thumbs up, right?
Is there any like perspective I should like? Am I looking at this from the FIA's perspective, the racing perspective, the fans' perspective?
I mean, it's difficult to know from. Well, there's a lot of perspectives. One, some of these races pay a hell of a lot more for the privilege than others do, right?
So then I'm gonna.
So that's a
I'm
big
keep
perspective.
Them, right?
But
if
I
I'm
think
FIA.
I think it's just as a fan at home.
Okay.
Rate it as a fan at home for your feeling about that track.
So,
right?
for example, Russia, who's not on the calendar, that race sucks, but they pay a lot of money.
Right.
So I'd get rid of them.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah. So this is just what tugs on the heartstrings from a Formula One fan at home on the track itself. And, yeah, we'll leave the money and politics aside.
All right.
All right. So we're starting right at the top. Number one, Bahrain, the Bahrain International Circuit.
Huh. Thumbs down on Bahrain.
I go thumbs down. I think you could lose that.
Okay. I feel neutral on Bahrain.
Do
so
you?
I'll give it a
Neutral?
thumbs down.
Okay. I think there's one space I've just opened up off the calendar.
All right. I'm fine with that. I feel very indifferent about Bahrain, so
yeah.
If you're not gonna give me a middle option, I'm gonna go with thumbs down then. I like that.
Okay. All right.
Next
up, Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. So the reason I say keep this because it's brand new.
Okay.
It is a super fast street circuit, and I think with a few tweaks here and there, it could be an interesting race. But we've only raced there once, so we kind of need to give it a little time to see how that'll play out.
Yeah, and I know we just said from a fan perspective, but I could also see that you want to keep somebody in the Middle East as a track. I think if I had to pick, I know that Abu Dhabi is the last on the list, but if I had to pick somebody, I could see keeping Jeddah just as a track. Again, not a big fan of Saudi Arabia, but which is the understatement of the year, but I say just as a track, fine.
Just fan excitement. That's right.
Okay.
All right. Next one, Australian Grand Prix. Absolutely should be on the calendar.
Yeah, I think always, and I also think you should always have a race in Australia.
Absolutely. Next, it's Australia, for crying out loud.
Right. You got to have a race there.
Every critter in Australia wakes up every morning trying to kill people. So they need some enjoyment.
Excellent. How can I kill? Yeah, some distraction, right? Like that weekend is your safest weekend, right? If you're in Australia.
Right. Next up, the Emilia Romagna at Imola.
I keep Imola.
Yeah, I would probably keep Imola too because I think it's an interesting track. It's got a long history there. Fans really have seemed to embrace it since it came back as a, gap filler, during COVID.
Yeah. It's not San Marino, but I think it is. I never know what to expect, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not necessarily always like, oh my God, this is always going to be a great race. I can't wait to go. But I never know. It's always unexpected. It's always interesting. And so I think that's why I would keep Imola. I think that there's always, I always want to watch that race, see what happens.
Right. Next up, Miami Grand Prix.
I'd get rid of it.
Would you? I'm going to give it the same patience I will with Jeddah. It hasn't been on the calendar long enough.
Fair, but...
I understand for all the reasons you would say thumbs down, but I say let's give it a race or two. Let's see if they figure out and fix some of the stuff with the track and just, turn the volume down from 11 down to 8 or something and that sort of thing.
I'm also going to say this now because we're going to get to Baku in like 4 races.
Yeah.
I'm down on any street course.
Okay.
I hate street courses. I mean, Baku isn't as bad as Miami, but that's always going to be like on a scale of 1 to 10. The highest you're ever going to get is like a 7 if you're a street course, in my opinion. So you're already starting in the negative.
Yeah, I agree. Miami was so, the pomp and circumstance was so over the top.
Yeah.
That it was difficult to form any real opinion on the track. But I don't think that course was. You're right. I mean, you're right. We should give them some chance to tweak it. But I think if we're having this discussion 5 years from now and they haven't made any changes, then I'm thumbs down.
Both thumbs. But again, it's a street course. It's never going to be very high on my list.
Right. All right. Next up, Spanish Grand Prix, Circuit de Catalunya. You know where that's at, don't you? That's exactly where that's at.
Just
So-
for our yearly dose of some Freddie, we
Yes,
got to keep that
exactly.
track. But
Gotta keep it. Yeah.
I mean, they do so much testing at Catalunya, so then it's
Yeah.
always, but I think kind of in the like, there's something in here that likes the idea of the crab track remaining on the schedule. But
Yeah.
I think, and I realize that not everybody's watching this on YouTube, but right in my heart, in my soul, there's some part of me that wants to keep Catalunya. But I think that if I am honest with myself, of the like, if we split these into like the 10 historic tracks of like a Spa or an Imola or a Catalunya, this would be the first one I'd get rid of the like classic tracks, because I don't think Catalunya serves, if I could only have 10 races, Catalunya would not be on that list. I'd get rid of it real fast. So I would keep it, but if we had to narrow it down, that would be one of the first ones to go.
Yeah, so you'd keep it, but just let it know that it's,
I'm watching you.
It's been warned.
Yeah, right. You better up your game, crab track.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, Monaco. You got to keep Monaco. Don't care. Just
all right. So I think that I've said this. Many people have said this. If Monaco was anywhere else in the world, we would have gotten rid of it a long time ago. Yes. But it's not. We keep it.
Yeah. And I guess I'm not within reason. Within reason, I'm okay if they modify a couple things, because the cars are so huge now, and it's difficult to get around. And, you could drive, and it keep a lot of people behind you pretty easily. So I think if they could create a couple better passing zones, maybe it's, well, honestly, at the end of the, coming out of the tunnel, into the chicane, and maybe down the front straight in Santa Vote. But anyway, need to create a couple opportunities there. But,
all right. So Monaco with some tweaking, Monaco with some space.
I think they should. Yeah,
I think that I like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Here's your favorite, Baku, Azerbaijan.
I'd get rid of it. That's
Grace says no.
The Jackals are going to be out because a lot of people, and I get it. Baku has been some pretty good racing.
It has.
It's a street course. I'm over it.
Yeah, I'd keep it.
Yeah, I think that's what most people would do. I realize that I'm gonna be alone.
Yeah.
In that decision.
Yeah, that's all right. Canadian Grand Prix. That's a keeper.
I keep it.
Sure.
Absolutely, because if we're keeping Monaco because of where it's located, you got to keep Montreal, because that is great. That is a great city. It's great to take the the subway to the track and take the subway back home. It's great.
Right.
I love Montreal. I love the city. I love that race.
Right.
Never take it off the calendar.
Agreed. Let's see. British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Of course, that's going to stay.
Yeah. I feel like, wait, do we have to have a number that we get rid of at the end of the day?
I was shooting for 3.
Okay. So what have we gotten rid of so far?
Well, I got rid of Bahrain.
Okay. We can get rid of Bahrain. Okay.
Yeah. You got rid of Baku.
But I don't think anybody else would agree with that. So.
Right.
Okay.
So you're at 2. I'm at 1.
Okay, back
here. And we got a few more to go.
Okay, I just want to at the end, because we may have to go back and revisit the list.
Yeah, we might. Okay.
Right.
So next race up, the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. Keep that.
Okay. I'm not keeping it.
You're dumping it?
I'm dumping it.
Wow. Okay. You're so anti-Red Bull, it hurts.
No, I didn't. I mean, even when it was the A1 ring, I think it's short and dangerous.
Oh, I think that track really produces some fun racing.
It does, but that doesn't mean I want to keep it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, I would keep that one, but the next one I might be talking rid of the French Grand Prix. I would say Paul Ricard. Yeah.
Right.
Now, if that was Magny-Cours, I would probably hesitate there. But as is Paul Ricard. Although this year, in fairness, this year was a better race, and I enjoyed that more. Yeah.
Okay.
Next race, Hungarian Grand Prix, the Hungaroring. Definitely keep that. That's a fun one. That's Monaco without the walls, right?
That's the only track that McLaren is good at. So
that's right. McLaren does well there. This next one, which everybody is convinced it may be one on the chopping block, is the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps.
You can't.
I think that over someone's dead body. That
I agree.
has to stay on that's got to be there. I mean, Spa is all the drivers' favorite tracks. It's if you poll fans, they'll all tell you it's their favorite track. It's the only track that gives you a sense that you're actually going somewhere. A lot like Watkins Glen. And Grace, you may not know this.
The weather. How could we not?
This is a unique track in that, did you know it could be raining on one part of the track and not the other? For you new fans, that is such a dog-eared thing that every single broadcaster says.
Always.
Every single year, every single race at Belgium. Grace and I started a drinking game that over the weekend you take a drink for every time the broadcaster said, "Did you know? Sometimes it could be raining on one part of the circuit, not the other." So anyway, it's a dog-eared joke.
Always.
That we've been making fun of. If you ever hear us saying that, we're making fun of it.
They'll say it. Crafty will
they
say
do.
something of that point.
Everyone does.
So,
They'll say it. They'll say it this year. This in 2 weeks, somebody's going to be saying it. They will.
Ardennes Forest. You never know what the weather's going to be.
It's got its own microclimate. It's got.
Apparently, so does Monaco, right?
Yeah, apparently.
As we learned.
So that's absolutely got to stay.
Yeah,
Next one up, Dutch Grand Prix, Zandvoort. That just got back on the calendar.
I
after
like
a huge
Zandvoort.
absence. You got to keep Zandvoort.
I like Zandvoort.
Absolutely. This one is the just Monza, Italian Grand Prix. You cannot get rid of Monza.
No.
That can't happen. This next one is the Singapore Grand Prix. First night race in Formula One, street circuit, complex like Jeddah, quick, fast like Jeddah. Would you keep that?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. Looking at the last, 5 races we have to pick from, and that we've only agreed on 2, if I have to get rid of one more out of the remaining track, oh no, because I'd get rid of Abu Dhabi. So maybe I'm okay. But again, I think Singapore, similar to Catalunya, I like Singapore. I leave
but
it
it's on
there.
Notice.
But yeah, if I had to make some space, I could live without Singapore.
All right, I keep it. Next one, absolute must, Japanese Grand Prix,
always.
Suzuka. Absolutely. Some
Much
of the
like
best
Spa.
Formula One fans in the world.
100%.
Absolutely must have it. Is proper old school track
Yeah.
like Spa. Got to stay.
Okay.
United States Grand Prix in Austin, Circuit of the Americas. Absolutely keep
Well,
that.
considering I think that every corner should be named for the corner that it's stolen from.
Yes.
Because a lot of that, so that you could be like, where are you sitting? Oh, I'm in, whatever. You know what I mean? Because they're each. Yeah, I think that would be fun. But yeah, you can't get rid of Austin, not just because it's our track here in America, but it's really a track that deserves to be on the calendar.
It's a proper track. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Next up, Mexican Grand Prix. This is one, Grace, that I'm a little bit like Spain with you.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but it's on notice, if I'm honest. It's okay. The novelty of finishing and the stadium section is kind of cool because all the fans, sitting in the stadium section can see the podium, and it's a lot of fun. And that's a really cool imagery, and that's neat. But I don't know that the racing has been absolutely riveting, although, last year was okay. But kind of lukewarm on that one. And the next one, Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos.
You gotta keep it.
It's a staple item. No, it's a staple item. It's been there forever. I would hate to remove Formula One from Brazil, of course, but there is some. I feel like Interlagos. There's some security issues there with the teams and
Not
the
if you ask
personnel. No, if you ask Bernie, it's probably just people wanting to get an autograph. But there's that. The track could probably use a little TLC. I don't know. I would think that F1's probably taking a hard look at that one.
Okay.
And no Brazilian drivers on the grid.
And maybe, yeah. I mean, I think that's where Mexico fits too. Like after Perez, retires, maybe maybe should be worried.
Yeah, right. And finally, the last race is Abu Dhabi for me. I did dump it.
It's done. You don't even have to ask me twice.
No, I would
out.
dump that one.
All right, so let's see.
I have 3. I have Bahrain, France, and Abu Dhabi.
Okay, and so we agree that Spain. Mexico or on the like we're watching you list.
Yeah, Barcelona, Mexico, and Brazil, maybe.
And Brazil, maybe. That pains me. I
Yeah.
like Brazil. I'd put Singapore on that list before I'm watching you
before
list
you
before
do
Brazil.
Interlagos. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but of course I agree about the safety issues. It's not like I'm not going to Interlagos, right? But
Right.
I think if you could just like parachute me in there, although I'm never doing that, I'm afraid of heights. But if you could just like drop me in there and I didn't have to deal with all that, maybe that would be be great.
There you go. All right,
then-
so that's what we
Yes.
think, folks. Let us know who you drop.
And you can just send me all your hater bait about
Yeah,
Baku
right.
and
Yeah,
Red Bull Ring.
I know.
I'm over both of them. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I take it.
Let's do some Album's Cats. Oh, it's fun, Grace. Okay, what do you got for Albon's Cats?
All right. So first, I feel that much like the off-season podcast, you're gonna have to give me a little space here in the summer
Okay.
break where we get a little extra time where you let me
Yeah.
like noodle about things that aren't necessarily Formula One related.
Okay.
right? So I just want to tell you're a big guitar guy, right? So you're a huge
am.
guitar guy, right?
Yeah.
So I am a percussionist, and so I just wanted to kind of put this out there for people that also are interested in drummers and or percussionists or any other instrument. But there's a YouTube channel called Drumeo. Oh my god, I could watch that all night long. Literally, we watch like 3 videos a night, and it's just like it's either sometimes it's famous drummers that you've heard of. It's studio drummers playing things. They had one guy, they took the drums off of a Tool song and he put his own drums on. Fascinating. It was great. And so, I also will put a shout out. So Sugarfoot, who's the drummer for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
His setup is amazing. He has cymbals all over the place. And I was just like, I could just watch him playing drum. I can't see Michael Jackson perform, but I would really just want to watch him playing drums. Even though Michael Jackson, I never think of as having like, it's not John Bonham of drumming, right? Like,
right.
He has a pretty straightforward beat to all his songs, but watching him play it, man, it's excellent.
It's awesome.
So if you're into drums or percussion, give Drumeo a shot. They teach you how to read music, how to play things, interesting things to play, things you didn't know. So check that out as a drummer.
I'm not a drummer, a guitar player,
Right.
but obviously I love drummers.
Right.
Drummers are awesome. Having been a product of prog rock and all that, of course,
Right.
Neil Peart, I'm a huge fan of.
Sure.
Tragically passed away. I'll tell you, there's other. You'll get a kick. So you like this? So Kenny Aronoff, who I think is awesome, drummer, member from John Mellencamp, and Kenny's a super cool guy, and he follows us, so that's cool.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he does.
Look at
Yeah,
us.
I know. Kenny's awesome. So Kenny,
Kenny
if you're
and
listening,
Stefano
hi.
Domenicali. Look at that.
Right. So if you're listening, Kenny, awesome.
That is
thanks
pretty
for the
awesome.
follow. But Kenny is super cool. Just awesome. Kenny, listen to him, and I listen to him do clinics and stuff like that. It's just so cool. As a guitar player, I'm bereft of the concept, but watching him or Marco Menemet or doing one time signature with the right hand, a different
Yeah.
time signature with the left hand,
Amazing.
and different with the feet it's
All
mind
4
blowing to
limbs
me.
doing something different.
Yeah,
It's
different time
crazy.
signatures and everything.
Right.
So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So hello, Kenny, and
yeah.
I always
So-
want to ask Kenny if he knows Michael Barsamanto, who I thought was a really, really good drummer as well. But anyway,
All right. I don't know.
so there you go. So,
should-
and I'll tell you some other things. There's some super cool. Gosh, I wish I remember her name now on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sorry I don't remember her name. I would say she's in her 20s, long dark hair, and does a lot of YouTube play-alongs, videos on TikTok. I wish I knew her name, but she's fantastic. Great player. So I'll check out your YouTube. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
there you go. Drumeo. So if you're really like,
Romeo.
yeah,
Cool.
Obsessed. I'm sure there's something that exists for all of the instruments out there, but
Yeah, I'm sure.
I really could, it's like midnight, which is never when I'm awake. And that's
Right.
what I'd be watching.
There you be watching that. It's totally.
So I also, we didn't mention that Kimi Räikkönen is going to be driving at Watkins Glen.
That's right.
So he's back to NASCAR.
How about that? Kimi back in NASCAR.
I just thought, right?
That's possible.
That's awesome.
Who knows how that's possible right now? So I just want to give a shout out. I mean, I'm not going to be watching the race, but Kimi Räikkönen's going back to NASCAR for at least a race. I thought that was always fun.
I think it's great. Yeah.
So if you're going to be watching Watkins Glen,
that's right.
Yeah, and you listen to this podcast, now you have something else to root for.
It's all good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Quick Todd's No Shit headlines. You ready for these?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Number one headline is this, quote, Daniel Ricciardo shown support by unlikely source as Harry Styles dons T-shirt. And he was.
So Harry Styles is a Ricciardo fan.
Harry Styles is a Ricciardo fan. Who knew?
Who knew?
I
don't know. Maybe they know each other.
Maybe they do.
I don't know.
Maybe that's what D-Rick's jamming on his headphones, his beats.
That's right.
Whatever, get a little Harry going there,
That's right. I don't know that. I mean, I like Harry Styles. I don't know that that's what would get me like pumped up to be in a car, but sure, each his own.
No, my youngest daughter turned me on to Harry because I hadn't really listened to his stuff, and then I listened to his first album. I thought it was really good, and then I watched some live stuff of him.
Yeah.
His band is really good.
Yeah, kid's pretty good.
Yeah, he is. He's talented. Second headline, ready?
Okay.
Quote, Toto Wolff breaks silence on Sergio Perez. Let me try this in English. Quote, Toto Wolff breaks silence on Sergio Perez replacing Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. Where the hell did that rumor come from? And who's out there talking about that? Nobody. He's got a contract for the next 2 years. Who's talking about Sergio replacing Lewis? That's crazy.
I feel like somebody just pulled a name out of a fishbowl. Okay,
Yeah.
Toto Wolff, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pull this name out of this fishbowl, and you're going to tell me if they're going to replace Lewis Hamilton.
That's crazy.
Sergio Perez. Like, who thought that Sergio Perez is like the only driver who's currently happy in his seat?
I know. I mean, I get it if they were trying to float rumors that it was going to be Lando or Charles or Carlos.
But not Sergio.
Sergio? Come on. That doesn't make any sense.
Especially since that kid, again, he's been at like 17. He's kind of like Carlos Sainz, right? Like he's been at like 7 teams. He's finally at a team where it's working out for him. Stop. He's not going anywhere, right?
I know. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, this one, quote, moment driver stuns motorist and police by taking a Ferrari Grand Prix car for a highway joyride. Yeah, that was pretty funny video.
I did. I watched the video. I was like,
First I think it was Kimi's car, wasn't it?
Yeah, and somebody pointed out that it's actually like a GP2 or an F2 car. Like it's not, but it was, like.
But it was made up to look like one, yeah.
But again, nonetheless, I think anything, like we drove past a Maybach today and was like, well, where are they going in their Maybach? And do you still have the umbrella in your door, right? Like,
right.
Could you imagine? I'm just driving down the Beltway and there comes some Ferrari, Formula 1 and or GP2 car. And I'd be like, what?
What? I know. Not street legal.
No. Do you also own a Murano? Because again, I have a lot of questions. Can I follow you home? Right? Like what?
You're going down the road in your Ferrari F1 car, and you've got this bumper sticker that says, "My other car is a Murano convertible."
Oh my god, that would be. Oh my god.
Yeah, that'd be
Maybe
perfect.
I should see if I could get that for Flip's Corvette. That would be so funny.
Yeah.
He never put that on there, but that would be.
You should have put it on there.
hilarious.
My other car is a Murano convertible.
Oh my god, that would be great. That would be great.
I'd love
I
it.
would
All
pay
right.
for that.
Let's see. And finally, Albans rediscovered the spark that Red Bull snuffed out. I guess what was that? Was it Helmut Marko in the library with the lead pipe
Yeah, right. Wow.
or the rope? They snuffed out his spark.
Well, I guess that would be like what a candle snifter,
Yes.
right?
Right.
but-
Snuffing it out. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. But
All very
yes,
British.
I
Yes.
think that the lead pipe most likely Helmut's tool of choice.
I would think so. Lead pipe seems good for him.
Just a blunt force
Yeah,
object.
just blunt, messy. Yeah.
Yeah, and be done with it. Like
And be done
anything
with it,
else,
yeah.
anything else takes some, finesse, or like the candlestick isn't really, you might not knock him out.
That's right. That's right.
He just wants to do it once and be done with it. And
And
hammer isn't one of your options. So
Right. And helmet is like, if you're going to do it, you make sure you do it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, lead pipe all the way.
Yeah.
That would be a fun exercise. What weapon would each team principal and or person affiliated
Use
with
in
the team
Clue?
use in Clue?
That might be good for next week, or at least the off season, because I've got some
Right.
pretty good ones right now. I'm already thinking of Yos Capito. That would be a tough one.
Oh, his would be creative though.
His would be creative. Yeah, it has to be, right? Because he can't afford to buy any of them.
Well, that's true. He can't afford the
Yeah.
revolver. That's just going to
Yeah,
cost him.
yeah.
He may have to use the candlestick because that's pretty free.
Yeah, or rope. Yeah.
It's just he just got that out of the dumpster in the back, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we may come up with, if I get some time, we may come up with
Some tin can.
F1 Clue, right?
Yeah, we have to get Charles in on that one. But don't tell
Yeah.
him. We'll just like dump it on him. And
Yeah,
be
we'll
like,
dump it on him. He won't know.
what is wrong with you people?
Right.
Why am I even affiliated with the show anymore? What do you
Right.
guys come up with?
No, he's like, I'm not driving for you next season. I'm
No.
driving for McLaren.
Yeah, I'm going to find another podcast. You guys.
Yeah, right.
This is what you think is funny.
Crazy. All right, folks. Well, that does it for this podcast this week. But if you like the podcast, you can share your opinion. Just go to theparkferme.com and share your opinion. If you like the podcast, go over to iTunes, give us some love, give us a good rating over there on Spreaker, where we've moved our hosting to. Give us some love on that. You can download the app as well to make your listening experience easy. A huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. Did want to mention that, yes, we did move our hosting to Spreaker, and yes, it does insert some ads, and yes, I'm going to try to get a little creative on where I get the ads inserted, so apologies for some of the legacy podcasts that came over, because it just auto-inserted ads into all the uploaded podcasts, so apologies for that.
Nice.
But everybody's like, well, what the hell? You're doing ads, and it's like, yeah, it's been free for
It's free.
12, 13, 14 years, and
gosh.
it's been free, and now our Patreon support, it's a tough time, so it's going down, so we have to monetize it to try to keep things going, and it costs a lot of money to do it. And so anyway, that's why it's there. However, our Patreon supporters have a ad-free version on Patreon that they can listen to without ads because they're Patreon supporters, and they shouldn't
go.
have to. So
I agree.
there you go. That's the story. And for those, I did get one email saying, "Oh man, see you put ads in it. I'm done with it." And I was like, "Well, dude, look, then we're probably not the podcast for you. If you don't want to, endure an ad or two to help us offset the cost of it, I get it. And obviously we're not that compelling of a podcast. So
15 years, people. I don't
know.
know. What is this like? We're almost at like 800, aren't we?
800 episodes.
796, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of episodes.
It's a lot of episodes of free content. So if you can't
I'm just
sit
saying.
through an ad or two, come on, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. In the meantime, if I can get some time, maybe I can craft a fun F1 Clue game
Yes.
for Grace and I next week. But we will be back next week to do it all over again. Until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.